Hello, good evening, everybody. We are doing this hybrid for the first time. So I'm just making sure that everybody online can hear me and that we're all set up for that. And that I'm also in the right spot because this camera is very specific on where you have to stand when you're presenting. So welcome. My name is Kelly Mall. I am the coordinator of special education for the district. I'm so excited that you all are here tonight. We are here to welcome you and your students to our district, and we've got a jam-packed presentation for you to discuss all of the things that you might be seeing at the middle school, as well as what you can expect in the upcoming months with respect to tours, campus info nights, as well as your transition meetings that we are already in talks about as we speak. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my Senior Director of Special Education, Dr. Aletta Wynn.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, I got to talk into this because the people are online. Hi, friends. How are you guys? Are you excited or deathly afraid right now? I'm just kidding. So welcome. We're so excited to have your students join our district, joining into the 7th grade. A little bit of my background, I was a middle school psychologist and a teacher of 9th grade, 10th grade in the middle schools. 6th grade was scary for our parents. For you guys, it's 7th grade, right? I will promise you, we just need to take a deep breath because we did it when they came into preschool. We did it when they went to kindergarten. We're going to do it now when they go into 7th grade. We're going to do it again when they graduate. And for our extensive needs folks, we're going to do it again when they're 22. And they're going to be all right. They will thrive. Okay. And our friends online, I hope you're hearing us. We're just going to take a big collective deep breath together. Okay. So let's inhale and exhale it out. This is a joyful time. You guys have brought your kids a long way, and we are so excited to have them. 7th grade is kind of crazy, though, and a little hormonal, not quite 8th grade, but not quite middle school, elementary. I loved them when they were in the middle school, so I cannot wait to meet all your students. We have a great presentation for you today. There's going to be a lot of information, okay, folks? I don't want you to get caught up in the details, all right, because everything's going to be posted for you. Everything's accessible to you. Our program supervisors are here to answer questions. And if you have a question down the road, we're here to answer your questions. Today, I just want you guys to feel the love, the welcome, and just like the big stuff, all right? Like how cool it's going to be in this transition, all right? And if you have worries later, talk to us. That's what we're here for, all right? Thank you so much. My incredible team here is to help you and have a great presentation.
All right, thank you. Okay, like Dr. Wynn said, we've got a jam-packed presentation, so we are going to jump right in. And I know that we have people online and in person. For our online friends, I was telling everybody in person that this is the first time we've actually done it online and in person. So apologies if we get a little caught up with some of the technological issues, but we're glad that everybody can join us both in person and online today. We will be recording this presentation. Please feel free to use the question and answer feature for those of us that are joining online. We will also be posting this to our special education family resources page, which we will discuss further later. Next slide. Okay. We have 5 middle schools in the district that your students may be transitioning to. We have Carmel Valley Middle School. Each of them has, before I jump into that, each of them has an assistant principal who is responsible for overseeing special education, or a principal who's responsible for overseeing special education. So there's a point of contact who is a site administrator on that site for special education. We also have program supervisors who support our programs at each of our sites, which is more of that nuanced programming, more detailed information that might need to be provided. So we're fortunate to have representatives from each of our sites here today. Carmel Valley Middle School, the program supervisor currently supporting that site is Kelly Masick, and she's here today. Degano Middle School is Sarah Skoma as a program supervisor, and you'll hear from both or all of them actually as we go through the presentation, which is wonderful. Earl Warren Middle School is Kelly Zitko. Oak Crest Middle School is Cloud Farage. And then Pacific Trails Middle School is also Kelly Zitko. She's got a large middle school presence with us. Next slide, please. Just a little introduction about where we're going for tonight. We are introducing ourselves currently, so you have an idea of who's in the room. We also will go into your schools of residence. We are a district of choice, and so where you live might not necessarily be the school that you attend. We'll go into our continuum of supports. That looks a little bit differently sometimes from elementary to middle school. We'll also go into connection and community. If you're going through this process and you need somebody to contact, you need somebody to ask a question to, who should you contact? We'll give you information for that. A little overview about what you can expect moving forward with regards to your transition meetings. And then we're also fortunate to have 2 parents here to share with you about their experience with the transition process last year. And then we'll save a couple of minutes at the end for questions and answers. About 6:25-ish. We'll be finished about 6:30. Okay, so as a welcoming activity, we actually have a lot of people in the room and a lot of people online today. So if you can please just turn to somebody in your vicinity and share with them, what is your biggest wondering about transition? We'll spend 2 minutes doing this. If you're virtual, go ahead and put that question in the chat, in the question and answer box. And we'll hopefully have a few brave souls willing to share out when we're finished. Okay. Thank you for being vulnerable and willing to do that with us. I'm going to go ahead and start with the online questions. My pal Sarah is going to go ahead and read those off for us.
All right. Sorry, that was really loud. From the chat, what school is best for my daughter?
That's a great question. So we have, like I said, 5 different schools within our school district for middle schools. Sometimes, depending on your student's program, that will determine what school your student goes to. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like as we go through our presentation. Sometimes it's just a matter of what feels best for your student. We have a lot of services and supports that can be provided at all 5 of our sites. So really understanding and participating in campus tours and info nights and understanding the feel of each of those campuses is going to be really important for your students. And we'll talk about what each of those info nights looks like. And we also have put together a nice little cheat sheet for you so you can click on them easily and see when those dates are as they're coming. Okay. Is anybody willing to share out from the crowd? Any wondering question, any commonalities that you found when you were speaking with your seat partner? Yeah. Yes. Correct. Yes. Absolutely. So just for people that maybe can't hear online, the question was with elementary, and we do go into this a little bit with the changes between elementary and middle school, because the biggest change is they're going from maybe 2 to 3 classes to 6 classes, right? And sometimes that's really difficult for students. So we'll talk about who to contact. We have a sheet, a spreadsheet, and a contact sheet for your best points of contact if you do have concerns. Your case manager is always going to be a point of contact for you. And we'll talk about when you might get that case manager and communication that will be forthcoming. So thank you for sharing that. It's a huge question. Anybody else? Yes. Communication. Can you tell me more?
I have a student that doesn't have like good communication skills due to her disability. So similarly with like multiple teachers,
Yes.
having that communication right now in elementary school is very broad, streamlined.
Yes.
In the future,
Correct. Who am I contacting for all of those things that I might need to have conversations about?
just knowing like day to day.
Yes. So site communication, what's going on. And so we'll talk about that. Each of our sites is amazing. We have websites for each of our sites that goes out, and there's weekly communication that goes out typically for each of our school sites. And then we'll also talk about our larger, broader communication focuses that we have, district, we have a resources website, and then we also have ongoing parent trainings as well that we'll jump into. So I'm glad to hear that that's something that we can address for you today as well. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I hear communicate. Go ahead. Just decompress. Right. Yes. And we'll talk a little bit about that. That will be part of our continuum of services. But by and large, all of our sites have safe spaces where our students can regulate, whether it's a counseling center or it's a wellness center. We do carve out those spaces for not only our students who are in special education, but also our general education students who might need that support as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yes, we do have those spaces on our campus. And if your student is a student who needs that, I encourage you to bring that up at the IEP meeting, to the transition IEP meeting that we'll get into, so that we can really talk about what that looks like for your specific student. Great. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, these are your boundary schools. We know that we have a lot of different people coming into these information meetings. We serve students all the way from the tip top of Carlsbad down into the very corner of Carmel Valley, right on the border of Sereno Valley. So we have a large boundary that we cover. So this is something helpful if you can utilize that to determine where your student might go to. By and large, most of our students who do not make a selection to go to a different school will attend these boundary schools based on your address. New acronyms, new words. When you come into our district, you will hear us use the terms North End and South End quite frequently. When we say North End, we are referring to our Cardiff and Encinitas friends, that district, and they largely matriculate into Oakcrest and Degano middle schools. When we talk about our South End, that's largely Del Mar, Solana Beach, and they matriculate into Carmel Valley, Earl Warren, and Pacific Trails middle schools. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Skoma to give you a little more information.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about elementary to middle school. And one of the first slides we're going to talk about is something that you brought up. Next slide, please. So really one of the biggest differences with your student who's going from elementary to middle school is in elementary, they're used to having 1, 2, or maybe 3 teachers. Now they're going to go to middle school and have up to 6 teachers. You'll see that they typically will have math, social science, math, and then PE and an elective. So that's the biggest difference. So when we talk about our continuum of academic supports here in our district, the very first one is available at all of our sites. Those are general education classes. Those are classes that are taught with general education content area curriculum with a highly qualified teacher. So for example, you have a math class that's taught by a credentialed math teacher or an English class taught by an English credentialed teacher. If your students are in those classes, if your student is in those classes, they will have access to their accommodations through their IEP. We're just going to wait real quick for the technology just for a moment. Oops. Okay. Yeah, just a little bit. So I was just talking about how the very first continuum that we have are general education classes with general education teachers who teach those. And then when we move on a little bit down the curriculum, we have general education co-taught classes. Those also are classes that are taught by a general education content area teacher, but they also are ones that have a partner teacher who is an education specialist, who is a special education teacher. So they partner teach together in that class. So the class size will vary, but it's anywhere from 30 to 35 students. It's in the general education setting. And again, if your student is in a co-taught class, they also will receive their accommodations as set forth through their IEP. The next part I'm going to talk about is called targeted academic instruction. Again, another acronym. It is a class that counts as their elective. So this is a class that is taught in a special education setting, taught by an education specialist. And if your student is in there, the purpose of them being in there is to support their IEP goals and to also talk about transition skills that we incorporate throughout those classes. Okay, and now Kelly Zitko is going to talk a little bit more.
And I'm just going to jump right in and make a little comment. So for our elementary friends, a lot of times we have specialized academic instruction minutes that are serviced within their current classroom, or their push-in or their pull-out. We have a couple different service delivery models that we use at the high school and middle school level to support our students. For some of our students, push-in would be our co-taught classes. So they might have that co-taught model. If they have a reading goal or a math goal, we might talk about what a co-taught model looks like for them. And that might be enough. For our students who require a little more in-depth services, maybe more of a pull-out model, we do what we call our targeted academic instruction classes, which would be an elective course. I see your hand, which would be an elective course in their schedule. So the difference is one is in a general education content course, right? With a general education teacher and an education specialist, a special education teacher. One, that's the co-taught course. The other is a pull-out course for that more in-depth, intensive. We can't do it just with the co-taught class. We need to have a separate pull-out class. That's our targeted academic instruction. That is a separate setting with a special education teacher in the classroom. Can you hold on to your question until we get to the end? Okay, thank you. Because we may cover it in here. Does that make sense? I just know that that's a huge difference from elementary to middle, and our pull-out, push-in courses look a little bit different in the sense that they're actually courses. And the way that we're delivering that service is either through a second teacher in the classroom or through a separate pull-out class, which is only a special education class, and there are no general education students in the course. Okay, here's Kelly Zitko.
Hi. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the continuum of the academic supports that are offered on various sites specific. So we have a program called the Seaside program that's only available at PTMS. And these are for our students that may have intense behavioral, therapeutic, mental health supports that are needed throughout their school day. Typically, if your student is in the SELF program or the Park Dowling PDL program, they would feed into this program. It would be an IEP team decision for that program to be involved, and we would go and have a transition meeting with those teams. These students require that highly individualized supports and access to maybe a mental health provider throughout their school week, school day. Most of their IEP goals are surrounded about skill building and building up some of their social, emotional, and behavioral needs so that they are available to access learning in the general education setting. So with that becomes they do get a hybrid schedule. So sometimes they may get pushed out for classes such as electives and PE with embedded support such as staff or teachers. And they may access their academics within the Seaside program, or if they are available and can handle it, they will go out for those classes with support. So that's part of the Seaside program. Another continuum of services we offered is a modified program. These are available at CVMS, Carmel Valley, and Oakcrest. They have foundational and functional skills that are taught in these programs. The curriculum is modified in all content areas. It's highly individualized and supported. The staff are highly trained to work with these students, and the curriculum throughout the school day is modified to focus on success, life skills, and supporting the students where they are at to build those essential academic skills and develop those functional understanding. One other continuum of supports that we offer is access courses. This is available at all sites, but is recommended through your individualized IEP team meetings. This counts as elective credit. So basically an access plan is a class or grade book that allows the student to access this curriculum but it does not meet those state standards. It's adapted to meet those standards. It's rather just aligned to those standards. The curriculum would be modified within the general education. They actually would be graded differently. It's on a separate roster within that general education class. And it consists of students that are enrolled but are receiving the modifications within that class period. They are graded on these clearly defined specific IEP goals through this access plan that's created by your individualized IEP team. And when they're in their general ed setting, we are working on these goals, but it's not just the goals specifically by themselves that we're working on. We want them to, be part of that general ed setting, be part of that curriculum in a modified manner. That makes sense. And now Nicole Edgett's coming.
I work at Torrey Pines, the next chapter, right? Yeah. I know you're all really worried about how am I going to keep in touch with the kids? There's going to be so many moving parts. But I promise you that all of our general ed teachers are really great. Most of them have websites that'll just be really organized and laid out. Mostly everybody has Google Classroom. We have Aries. And so the kids are given lots of tools to create autonomy around their own kind of progress monitoring. Aside from that, obviously you're going to need to connect with the teachers, right? So this slide is kind of like a twofer. On one side, we have our special education supports for parents. We have a great thing called 4C, which is our Coastal Collaborative Community Connections, which is just intended to try to get families of students on IEPs together outside in our communities, go to the park, go to coffee, just kind of connect and kind of network around some of the issues that you're experiencing and how we can kind of work together. This little graphic here, this circle graphic, is kind of like your hierarchy of who to contact. Your student is that little gray circle in the middle. And the first person that you want to kind of shoot for is the general education teacher or teacher of the classroom. Most of the time, it's a quick and easy question. They'll get right back to you. But if they don't, because they have lots of kids, the next point of contact will be your case manager at Torrey. I like to call them the kids' quarterbacks, kind of. They help kind of understand what's going on in the classroom. They might be able to get back to you a little faster. If it's a continuing issue, we have our assistant principals. Every site has at least one AP designated for special education. We have 3 APs at Torrey. Then you can go to your principal, your site principal, and then program supervisors, where many of us, unfortunately, are at multiple sites, but we do our very best to get back to you as soon as possible. But we are obviously there to help guide you, answer any questions you might have around what's going on in class and the IEPs. Then up the chain, we come into Kelly's, the coordinator of special ed, then our senior director, all the way up to Brian Marcus. And that's kind of the way the wheel works there. Okay. Next slide. I should say one more thing. I needed to go back and talk a little bit about Access. Kelly wanted me to. Super proud of Access. Access plans and access opportunities for kids are exactly what they are designed to do, which is to create meaningful inclusion opportunities for kids with disabilities that wouldn't have those opportunities otherwise. So it's something that we do across curricular and electives, and we do it at every site. So it's really to promote inclusion. That's the intent of it. Okay. And then this is our guiding principles behind our special education strategic plan, which is aligned with the district's, what we call the LCAP. And these are kind of the guiding principles of how we have to make all of our decisions. So we wanted to just make you aware of that. Okay. Next slide. Okay, we're going to talk about the transition IEPs.
Hi there. Okay, so we are already preparing for your students to come into our district. Our teachers are already having conversations with your students' case managers right now. And they were just hearing, kind of the basic information about your students, kind of where they're at right now with their IEPs and with their needs and their abilities, just to give us a general idea of, who your kids are and what we're going to be needing to prepare for them when they come in. The purpose of the transition IEP meetings, which we're going to have with you, usually in March, is for us to sit down with you and your child's current IEP team. We hear about the services and all of the great things about your kiddos that are going on now and what they have currently in their IEP. And then we're going to talk to you about how that translates to San Diego, and we're going to talk to you about the comparable services that we're going to have to what your child's getting now. And Kelly talked about it a little bit earlier, right? If they're telling us your child's going for a good portion of their day to the Learning Resource Center, we're probably going to be talking about a targeted academic instruction class or something of that nature, or a co-taught class, depending on, if they're getting those push-in supports or what's happening for them right now. It'll be as comparable as possible to what they currently have. Okay. And at the transition meeting, there will be a representative from San Diego. It's either going to be a program supervisor or one of the education specialists from the school that your child's going to be attending, or potentially both. But it will include all of the service people or whoever on your child's current team at the elementary school that you all feel is important to be there, and then a representative from our district as well.
You did my job for me. No, it's okay. This is great. All right, so this is essentially just a spreadsheet that's going to break down what she just said. Like, when does this happen? Essentially from now through March. We will be setting up those IEP meetings. Who's going to be there? She shared that it'll be your IEP team that you're familiar with, and then someone from our side joining. And then anyone else you feel it needs to attend as well. It'll be held at your elementary school sites, and it's going to be a shorter meeting than what you're normally used to. It focuses on just getting a feel for what that IEP is and what the needs are and how it's going to translate to our district. So it's about 30 minutes long. Next slide. All right, so how do we get started? Our pre-enrollment window has already opened up. So as of January 13th, you are more than welcome to go onto our website and enroll your student. Do this before February 7th, because that's when it gets closed. And there's a link there for you as well. Next slide. And the next two slides focus on some Q&As. So this first slide focuses on key information, like how do you figure out where your boundary school is? What is ARIES if your elementary school hasn't used that? It's our student information system. And then just details on enrollment, and yeah, essentially details on enrollment. Next slide. The next slide focuses on course selection and advising, just some Q&As in there, as well as resource links at the bottom and our welcome letter. And next slide. Who's got this one? Ah, there you go.
Okay. It's me again. And I want to emphasize that when we go into these transition meetings, our goal is to match as best we can what your student is currently receiving at their site. We don't want to change anything. Your teams have worked with them a lot of times for 6-7 years. They know them very well. Our goal is not to change those services in that transition meeting, which is why it's shorter. Our goal is for us to look at what they're currently receiving, what their services are, what those services look like, whether they're push in, pull out, how long they are, how many adults are there, right? And then we are basically having a conversation about what that looks like in our middle schools based on your students' needs. As we kind of wrap up our portion of the presentation, just kind of the info blast that we're doing right now, we have linked all of our information nights and websites for all of our middle schools within this presentation. So following the presentation, you will be able to click on the websites and look at all of the information for each of our middle schools, as well as exactly when those information nights and tours will be held. Next slide. All right. This is our favorite portion of the presentation is where we bring somebody in who's actually been through the process within our district. And we are fortunate to have two parents here to share their experience with you tonight. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Ladman first to share a little bit with you about his experience with the transition process and any tips that he might want to share with the group. Thank you.
I don't know who Mr. Ladman is. That's what the police call me. But my name's Jeff. And I was like you guys. I mean, I actually came to this meeting when my kids were in 5th grade. A little bit about me. My wife and I have triplet boys, and they're all neurodivergent to neurospicy. And 2 of them were in the co-top program at Flora Vista through Encinitas Union School District. And then my other son, Jarrett, was at Mission Estancia in a special day class program, but the acronym's RISE. I can't remember what it stands for right now. Reaching independence through supported education. You got to love acronyms if you're into SPED. The cool thing is 2 of my sons, and I'm uncomfortable talking about this, but I only have a few minutes. They're kind of, high functioning in the sense that they're at or around grade level. They're just kind of, different. Don't know where they get that from. And then my other son needs a lot of support, and that's why he was in a special day class or the RISE program at a different school. I really got into special education because of my sons, and I'm actually, truth be told, I'm an instructional aide now and still am at Mission Estancia in the lower LRC there, where I do pullouts for kids that are English and math mainly. Hang on, I got a couple notes here. That was my greatest hits. So I was very, very nervous because, 7th and 8th grade is kind of a petri dish socially and so many other things. Worried about, vaping, bad language gangs. I didn't really know, but I was very concerned about their environment they were stepping into. I was fortunate to go to Encinitas Union School District, where my kids were very well taken care of. What I will say is things went far better than I ever thought they could. I'm going to give a couple of props here to the people behind me and the San Diego Union, San Diego Union High School District. Once again, acronyms, because all 3 of my boys are thriving. I have one son that just graduated from his IEP and is in general education. They're all at Earl Warren. My other son is in co-taught program. He probably could have gone a little more severe route, but he's thriving there right now and actually is taking what they call the bridge math stuff online right now so he can get to a different level of math, because he wants to excel for the first time in his life in something. So we're definitely supporting that. And then my son Jarrett is in the modified program, and that's basically a special day class. He's at or around 2nd to 4th grade in all of his work, but he's in with about 18, 19 people and very well supported at Oakcrest, and also gets to do a few electives and things. But I've got boys in each of the 3 programs, and they all want to go to school right now, which is a huge, huge thing for us. And they're also together for the first time, which is cool. I'm going to get emotional here, but let me just see here. I got a couple more things because I want to give it over to this nice lady who I just met. Here's what I can say is so far the school district, I've been to, this is my 3rd meeting of this. Each meeting has gotten better. As a matter of fact, this meeting, it's on Zoom. They're recording it. All sorts of things have been done. I find communication is always the lacking piece in any school district. And I see people with goodwill making advancements here. So that's a huge bonus to me. Are things perfect? No. Are you going to get everything you want? No. Are you going to get answers in a timely fashion? No. But guess what? You're going to get a lot of things. You're going to get more hits than misses if you're a baseball person, right? So I just want to say that it's going to be okay. You need to be an advocate for your kids and your family. If you do the work, they have to do the work. And, they work for you, basically, right? So don't forget that symbiotic relationship. And I would ask you all, finally, just to be kind. It doesn't work to be adversarial. You need to collaborate. And so far, I've found these people to be decent collaborators. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Jeff. I hope that you get more responses than not, but that's all I'm going to say. Yeah. The next lovely person that I have to introduce to you is Eliza. She also has a student within our district at Earl Warren Middle School. So I will introduce you to her, and she's got a little bit to say about her program.
Thanks. Hi guys, my name is Eliza. I have a 7th grade daughter, lots of hormones at Earl Warren Middle School. So, and I'm also the parent liaison for the district special ed department. I work with Principal Medina. So if you guys have questions about anything, like feel free to reach out. I don't know if we can kind of share contact info, but, and Jeff too. Yeah, I was totally new coming into this. My daughter is my stepdaughter and came to live with us full time right before 6th grade. So I jumped into this not having a lot of preparation. And so I kind of did a crash course and everything. We came from Skyline. So we had, you know, a really great system there with her general ed teacher and then her resource center teacher, her learning center teacher. I was really worried about the transition, just going from having these teachers that were so focused on her and her learning aids that would, you know, write on her homework, this page is due this day, right? And keeping her really in line, to going to all different teachers and not really knowing who I was going to communicate with. It's been way easier than I ever thought it could be. And that's what I would say is the biggest thing going into this is like helping your kids with the organization. I actually think it's less about academics. They have all the academic support. So my daughter's in a co-taught English and a co-taught math class. So she has a lot of support there when she needs it. And she's in the TAI class, which is really helping them with like executive functioning. How do you organize your planner? They have like a planner check every week to make sure that they're writing down everything that's due. That's the piece that I think really needs more. The teachers are so great with the academic piece. I think for the parents, it's just keeping things organized and making sure that your kids are not forgetting what's due. That's the hardest part about the transition is they've got 6 different classes. So Earl Warren, they have all 6 classes one day, and then they alternate 1, 3, 5, and 2, 4, 6 on the other 2 days. So it's keeping track of like, what day do you have what class? What day of the week is that assignment due? Do you have stuff online? They use like IXL online. Do you have stuff due that's a written packet? It's just managing all of that. And that's, I think, the hardest part for a lot of the kids. It's not that they can't do the math work. It's that they don't remember what's due because there are so many moving parts. I've had a lot of success just reaching out to the teachers individually. And I think that as a parent in the beginning, I felt like I don't want to be this burden. Like I know these teachers have all of these kids in their classes that they're working with, and I don't want to be this burden of the one always emailing or the one always checking in. But I started to do that, and it really kind of changed how things went, and it made the communication so much easier. It's like I got an email today. Hey, Araya forgot her math packet. She said she left it at home and she was working on it last night. She's 2 pages behind. It's due on Thursday. There's going to be a sub. I was like, oh my God, great info. This is everything I need, right? And so I think just opening up those lines of communication via email. When my daughter wasn't doing great in her math, I just emailed her teachers, her math teacher, and said, hey, can we schedule a meeting? We scheduled a meeting for lunchtime on a weekday and pulled my daughter in with us. And we sat down and said, okay, where is it that you're not having success? And what's stopping you from asking? And her whole thing was, I want to figure it out myself. But she wasn't doing it correctly. So we had to come to an agreement with her teachers that like, hey, you're going to make sure if you're having questions, you come to us, you ask about this, you don't put the wrong answer, you don't do the wrong work, right? Leave it blank if you don't know. That tells us that you don't know what you're doing. And so it was really more about empowering the students to come to the teachers for help when they need it. The TAI class has been really great in terms of organization, but I also had to realize that's one teacher managing all the kids in that class. She can't go individually with every single class and every single assignment's due. And so it's kind of been in combination with those teachers, like with her individual subject teachers and her TAI teacher, to make sure that she's staying on task, getting her stuff done, and that she's got a system. That's what was really helpful, is like, what's her system for her to stay organized? And then how can we as parents double check it, right? So every day I get a Google Classroom email that tells me, this is what's missing from last week, this is what's due this week, this is what was assigned this week. And so every day we just run through it. And so having that knowledge as the parent makes me feel less like I don't know what's going on and is she doing it, is she not? Because I have it all laid out right there. I have her Google Classroom login. I don't have access as a parent. So her teacher said, use her login, log on and see what she's got to do. And so I do that. So just finding out a way that you can kind of maintain the organization, I think is the key. One of the questions was also which school to go to. I think it's also where does your child have some solid friends? It doesn't have to be their entire friend group, but that's really helped my daughter. Like she loves school, not so much the academics, but she loves the social aspect. When we drive by her school on the weekend, she goes, oh my God, I wish I was at school. It's so boring at home, because she likes being there with her friends, and that encourages her a lot to do well in school because then she gets to stay with her friends. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. In sum, we've got this. Deep breaths, right? We've got this. We are already in communications with the elementary schools. We are having conversations with your case managers, and we are prepping already for your children in numerous ways. So just please, I hope that you trust us with your children. I'm so happy that you're here tonight to be a part of this conversation, but we will be working from now all the way through summer to make sure that we are ready to support your children in the fall. One thing that I wanted to scan on, and Eliza hit on it, she is one of our special education strategic plan parent forum representatives. So one of our, and Nicole touched on it a little bit, but one of the things that you will see as our guiding principles essentially is our strategic plan that we developed in 2017 with a group of stakeholders, parents, administrators, teachers, and we outlined 6 different goal areas for us. And then within those, we outlined action plans. And that really is what guides us in supporting our students each and every day. We have selected, like Nicole said, assistant principal liaisons for each of our sites. And then we also have parent liaisons who attend on a quarterly basis. We develop goals, we talk about unique site issues, and we talk about ways to improve those site issues as a team. So it really is something that I encourage you to get involved in at your own site, wherever that might be. All of that to say, if you scan this QR code, we also have a special education family resource webpage, which has information on anything that you might need from 7th through adult transition. We have resources on Social Security. We have resources on our continuum of services. We have resources on community resources. We have, somebody mentioned 4C. We have a parent, that's our parent outreach group that meets regularly. We have ongoing parent webinars that you can access with a calendar from everything from the basics to of IEPs to handling challenging behaviors. So I really encourage you to check out that website because it really is a vast wealth of resources for our families.